How do we understand history? Do we expect to have artifacts for every event we understand to be true? If we didn't have the homes, clothing, and other preserved pieces from George Washington, how do we know our history is correct in assuming George Washington was the United States' first president or even existed to begin with? How about Homer? Sure, we have the Odyssey and the Iliad, but there are no other accounts for the life of Homer. Though there is not currently a confirmed archaeological site for Noah's Ark or contemporary engravings that point to Noah as being a figure, I believe we can still confirm the story of the flood. While we have thousands of ancient copies of the Torah today, some dating back to the late 7th or early 6th century BC, is that enough to gain confidence in Moses' account of the flood? What if there was some corroborating evidence that did not directly speak to the narrative of Scripture, but also spoke about a civilization-ending flood? Take the ancient Mesopotamian myth of Gilgamesh, which was recorded on 12 tablets during the 3rd dynasty of Ur around 2100 BC. This tale speaks of a great flood in which Gilgamesh, Utnapishtim, and his wife are the only humans to survive. The Hawaiians have their own ancient great flood tale as well. A man named U escaped a great flood by building a large boat with a house on top of it. The man and his family landed on the Mauna Kea when their creator god, Cain, descended on a rainbow and explained the mistakes of Nu'u. The Chinese have a great flood story dating between 2300 and 2200 BC. In this myth, Emperor Yao appoints Gun, who steals the magical Zerang, from the supreme divinity in order to construct dams and walls from the Zerang's magical soil. In this flood story, the waters exceed mountaintops. The Greeks have a story about Deucalion, son of Prometheus, who fashioned a chest in order to escape a flood Zeus sends to destroy humanity. Deucalion and his wife ride on this chest and land on Mount Parnassus. Though these myths have no corroborating evidence to back up their own claims, they do seem to track back to an actual flood event. And while they may not have evidence to support their claims, the writings of Moses and Genesis do have archaeological evidence to support other areas of the story beyond Noah. So even though there is no archaeological evidence that supports Noah's flood, history seems to point to a flood around the same time that Noah's flood occurs. With the evidence we have for the remainder of Genesis and the stories outside of Scripture pointing to a civilization-ending flood, it is not unreasonable to believe the biblical account for the flood. Please continue to follow along with me as we take a look at more evidence for Scripture and the stories it contains. May God keep you and bless you. Really quick, before you go, let me explain why I felt led to start this channel. When talking to Pilate, Jesus said, "I have come into the world to bear witness to the truth. Everyone who is of the truth listens to my voice." Pilate responds by asking, "What is the truth?" It's evident that a lot of people are still asking this question almost 2,000 years later. And while we live in an amazing time with the wealth of the world's knowledge available in the palm of our hands, there's often too much information, leaving people unable to process what's true and what's not true. Paul describes such times in this way when he writes his second letter to his disciple Timothy. Always learning and never able to arrive at a knowledge of the truth. There are several who expound on what truth is. but often they are misguided, or they are malice in their intent, or they're being intellectually dishonest. My hope is that I am able to provide evidence for why the scriptural narrative is true, a contextual and practical explanation of the principles found in its writings, and a defense for other believers. As Peter explains, you should always be prepared to make a defense to anyone who asks you for a reason for the hope that is in you, yet do it with gentleness and respect. If you find value in this channel as I do, there are a few ways you can help, both by gifting and without spending any money. First, react and interact with these videos wherever you're watching from. This greatly helps the channel be seen by others and new people. Next, please share this content with others you feel may benefit from the information found here. Also, please subscribe to this channel on all social media. And finally, if you feel led to, and if you have the means to, please consider giving to this channel through the outlets previously mentioned, or the channel's Patreon. All these links are going to be in the video description. Thank you for watching, and may God keep you and bless you.